Hello YouTube, I'm Michael Morgan. This is Retro Reviews. Thanks for joining me today. Today is part 2 of my series, Star Wars Worst to First. Before I get into review, as always, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button on this video, and share this video. Also, just to let you know, there will be spoilers ahead. In this video, we're going to be ranking the Star Wars movies number 5 through number 1. So if you haven't seen the previous video, I'd encourage you to go ahead and go back and watch that. Also, just a reminder, in the previous video I mentioned this, my rankings are limited only to the live action Star Wars movies. So the 9 movies of the 3 trilogies and the 2 standalone movies, Solo: A Star Wars Story and Rogue One. So you're not going to see the animated Clone Wars movie ranked on this list, nor will you see the 2 made-for-television Ewok movies that came out in the mid-80s. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the rankings. At number 5, we have Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. In which, this is by far the best movie of the prequel trilogy. At the time, this movie was essentially meant to be the end of Star Wars, because as far in interviews and stories of George Lucas, he kind of thought, okay, he's finished the story. Because this movie ties up really all of the loose ends of the saga. At the particular point, we see how Anakin Skywalker becomes Darth Vader. You see his fall to the dark side. You see the rise of the Empire. You see the fall of the Republic. And there is really a lot to like about this movie, especially the opening sequence with the space battle over Coruscant. That is just a visual spectacle. And of course, if you're a fan of lightsaber battles, this movie is nonstop. Lightsaber battles. You have the battle between Anakin and Count Dooku. You have the battle between Obi-Wan and General Grievous, Yoda and Emperor Palpatine. You have the lightsaber fight with Mace Windu, Anakin, and Emperor Palpatine. And of course, it ends with the best and by far one of the most personal lightsaber battles, I think, in the entire series, when Obi-Wan and Anakin face off on Mustafar. It just as Anakin becomes Darth Vader, you also see, of course, they also shoehorn in Chewbacca into this movie when Yoda goes to Kashyyyk to help the Wookiees fight the Republic. And of course, you see Order 66 executed. And you see the fall of the Jedi. Now, this a few. I just have a few nitpicks about this movie. This sometimes just the way, that some of the circumstances as to why Anakin falls to the dark side. I think it could have been some deeper reasons as to why, and also, when you write a prequel, you're kind of basically write yourself into a corner at the start, and just how, and that's how they had Natalie Portman's how they had Padme. Of course, the story ends with she gives birth to Luke and Leia. But instead of, and basically she just dies because she's sad. As the robot says that she's lost the will to live. I mean, that's just a very vague, very poorly executed reason. Maybe there was some. They could have wrote in she was having some complications with childbirth. Maybe there was some internal injuries that they couldn't stop, because after all, she was force choked by Anakin when she went to confront him on Mustafar. But when I saw this movie, in the theater, there was a sense of finality, with the Star Wars saga, because the events of this movie just lead up to what you see in the original Star Wars. It ends with the Death Star being constructed. Leia is taken to Alderaan, her home planet, and of course you see Obi-Wan handing the infant Luke to who is his uncle Owen as Aunt Beru, and of course it ends with them looking at the twin sunsets. And also, this is a much maligned scene with Revenge of the Sith. Is Darth Vader's no, when he's finally put into the suit and he finds out that Padme had died. The Emperor blamed it. Blamed it on Anakin's anger that killed her, and just the no itself, and that unfortunately came off kind of cartoony. But I think that could have been played a little bit better. But as I said, overall, this was at the time what we thought was the end of the Star Wars saga. It paid a lot of fan service. It answered a lot of questions that we had watching the original trilogy. And so, as I said, it's a good, solid entry. Okay, at number 4, Return of the Jedi. Of course, this is the movie that ended the original trilogy, in which, of course, if you studied any of the backstory of the movie was supposed to be called Revenge of the Jedi. In fact, there was marketing. Posters and everything made up of the particular movie. The movie was going to be called Return of the Jedi, and then it went to Revenge of the Jedi. Then just weeks before it came out, it was changed back to Return of the Jedi. Too, in this movie also did a great job. Being the third part of the trilogy, it does introduce some great characters. We finally get to see Jabba the Hutt. As he was only referenced, in the original movies. I'm not talking about the CGI Jabba the Hutt that was later inserted into the special editions. I'm talking about from the original trilogy perspective. We only heard mentions of Jabba the Hutt, and of course, the movie just starts off with Luke, having a plan to rescue Han Solo, who is still frozen in carbonite from The Empire Strikes Back. You have that great sequence, Luke returning to his planet of Tatooine. They defeat Jabba the Hutt, and of course, they learn the plans of the new Death Star. And then, of course, other than just a brief moment in The Empire Strikes Back, we see the Emperor makes his arrival on the new Death Star, and then. Then of course you have the conflict between Luke and Darth Vader. Luke is trying to turn Vader back to the light side of the Force, and then that fight is just it's just such a more of a personal fight, between those two men, and then you have. Then, of course, you have the space battle over Endor, which I think is far superior than the battle on the ground with the rebels and the Ewoks, and which I've also read that they originally it was going to be the Wookiee planet was going to be featured in Return of the Jedi. But then George Lucas was at that time thinking more of a marketability standpoint, thinking more of the merchandising aspect, and he made the Wookiees into Ewoks, which are just the glorified teddy bears. But they do provide a lot of some good comic relief in the movie. And and also I just when this movie came out in 1983, that was also another time that you thought, okay, we're done with Star Wars, because for a long time after Return of the Jedi, we didn't really hear or see much about Star Wars, until you had the first books, the Thrawn trilogy. It came out in the early '90s. But overall, with Return of the Jedi, definitely, if you can get your hands on a copy of one of the original theatrical editions, that was certainly better because the problem with the special editions that I had, of course, is the big musical number. The whole Jedi rocks thing, because it kind of slows down the movie. Kind of seemed a little unnecessary, because I mean, the background music in the beginning of the original movie, I thought that was fine. I thought that was fine as it was, and of course, with the limitations of technology, of course, the special editions were meant to update the original movies, and that now those can look outdated in places as well. But of course, we see, this movie is also adds a lot of adds a lot of revelations as well. As you have the revelation that of course Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father, Princess Leia is Luke's sister, and of course you have the revelation that Obi-Wan Kenobi told Luke the truth from a certain point of view. But I remember I still love Return. I still love Return of the Jedi. I of course loved it as a kid when it came out, and this will always be one of my favorite Star Wars movies. This will always be near the top of the list for me. Hey, at number 3, we have Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. Now, I know the sequel trilogy, and gets a lot of hate from fans out there for Disney, but I will give Disney their credit on this. This is the best Disney Star Wars movie, and one of the best Star Wars movies that I've ever seen. This movie deals with how the rebels got a hold of the Death Star plans, in A New Hope. So, because it's often it's often cited as a plot hole that the Empire would build this big, massive space station, and then there was this little exhaust port, that was installed there. Well, of course, with Rogue One, you learn that the designer of the Death Star, Galen Erso, had actually put that in because he was secretly working for the rebels. And of course, this movie has a great cast with it. You have Felicity Jones, who does a great job as Jyn Erso. You have Diego Luna as Cassian Andor. You have Donnie Yen. Forrest Whitaker makes an appearance as Saul Guerrero in this movie, and you have Ben Mendelsohn, who was just at that time. This movie came out in 2016. He was kind of like the go-to bad guy in movies. Of course, he had he was in the Dark Knight Rises, and of course, if you're familiar with the TV show Bloodline on Netflix, he also played he played the villainous brother in that movie. And one of the things I really liked about Rogue One was just the whole grittiness of it all. I mean, this is essentially a heist film, where it's a team of basically mercenaries they're put together to get a hold of the Death Star plans. And of course, Darth Vader. He also makes an appearance in this movie, in the ending sequence where he is on, where he takes on all of the rebel soldiers in the hallway of the ship. I mean, that's fan service at its best. To me, you just they really tapped into just the awesomeness of Darth Vader's power. As far as the one thing that I disliked about the movie was just how they use CGI to bring back Grand Moff Tarkin, or Peter Cushing's character from A New Hope. Now I understand story wise, he had to be there, but the CGI that they use, they use an actor as a stand-in, and then they use CGI they put Peter Cushing's face over the actor. Yes, Peter Cushing, he passed away in 1994. So yeah, as I said, I understood story-wise why he had to be there, but when you see the CGI at first, I mean, it kind of takes you out of the movie for a second because it just doesn't look good. And also, yeah, the quality of that particular CGI, it does vary throughout the movie. But this also shows, the power struggle within the Empire, as well as Grand Moff Tarkin is he and Ben Mendelsohn's character Orson Krennic. They're at odds with each other. They're both trying to impress the Emperor over the Death Star, and it too. And this also ends with a great space battle over Scarif, and then which of course leads to the rebels sending the plans to Princess Leia's ship, and then you see right at the end her Princess Leia's ship gets away just as Darth Vader's making his way to the platform. You see Darth Vader standing out, in space, staring at the ship, which of course you notice leads up to the great chase at the beginning of the original Star Wars. So by far, Rogue One is the best Disney Star Wars movie. Okay, here we go at number 2. We're going with the movie that started it all, Star Wars, or some people refer to it a New Hope. This was a movie that kicked off this multi-billion-dollar empire. I mean, this was influential even today in the way that movies are made, how movies are marketed. This is just a great, straightforward good versus evil story. This has all of the story arcs that you're familiar with from reading adventure books and everything. As a kid, you have someone who you have this young farm boy who finds this wizard. They go on this grand adventure. They meet all these other people along the way. I mean, of course, you have Harrison Ford as Han Solo. You have the great Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just to see, and we're actually with the prequels, and at the time we didn't know that there were going to be prequels. Of course, this kind of drops you this right into the middle of the reign of the Empire. And of course, and the rebels come into possession of the Death Star plans, and which we know how they do that from the movie Rogue One. This is just you just really see, you just really see the conflict in Luke Skywalker is, he's of course duty bound to helping his aunt and his uncle on their farm, but he has dreams of a bigger adventure, and then. And then unfortunately his aunt and uncle are killed by the stormtroopers, and Luke goes on this grand adventure. He discovers who he is. This is our first inklings about the Force, and then of course you have the lightsaber battle between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. I mean, of course, you got the air attack on the Death Star, which is just just great spectacle, and even for the time that it was produced, I mean, with the miniatures and the models, it still holds up today. It's just being a really exciting, thrilling movie. Okay, at number 2, this is the GOAT of Star Wars movies, in my opinion. This is the Joe Montana, the Michael Jordan of Star Wars. Number 2, The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, what is there not to like about this movie? This is certainly meant to be this is a darker chapter in Star Wars, because I mean you have the movie starts off with the Empire handing it to the rebels on Hoth. You have the rebels are trying to escape through the blockade. You have Luke facing the Wampa. You have Obi-Wan Kenobi appears to Luke, tells him that he must seek out Yoda on Dagobah. to be trained in the Force. You have that great that entire sequence of Luke coming into his own with his training. Of course, the famous cave sequence. You have this movie also introduces Lando Calrissian, who is revealed to be an old friend of Han Solo. But unfortunately, Lando betrays Han to the Empire, and Han is frozen in carbonite. You have, and just some of the dialogue in here is just fantastic. You have memorable lines of course, you have Darth Vader telling Luke, "No, I am your father," and then, of course, you have when Han Solo is being lowered into the carbonite. Princess Leia tells him, "I love you," and then Han Solo says, "I know." Too, because originally, director Irvin Kershner had said, the line, and the line was actually Han Solo was supposed to say, "I love you too," and then Harrison Ford just said, "How about I just say I know?" Which just really captures the essence of the Han Solo character in this movie. And of course, you have the lightsaber fight, between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. To me, with one of the biggest plot twists in the history of movies, that the revelation that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. And then you have and then of course, I just think The Empire Strikes Back is perhaps one of the greatest sequels of all time in the history of movies. Yes, certainly with, if you have The Empire Strikes Back, it's right up there with The Godfather Part 2, in my opinion, as far as with sequels. The effects in this movie are just, they go beyond, what we saw in the original Star Wars. And this is by far, as I said, the GOAT of Star Wars movies. And I just want to thank you today for taking the time to watch this video. Thank you.